Hi, my name is Mark. So a couple of times I've talked about improvising and playing over the chord changes and kind of outlining the chords you're playing over. And if you're into that sort of stuff, I highly suggest to check out this playlist right here. But through the years I've realized that playing through the chord changes isn't really that hard when you're playing over a modal tonality. If you're playing in the key of A minor and you're playing over the chords like A minor, F major, C major, G major, those are 4 chords you need to outline. But since those chords share a bunch of notes and are all in the same key, it's not like it's a piece of cake, but it's not really that hard. Even if you just use your pentatonic scale or your blues scale, you'll mostly get around to it. What can make playing through the chord changes a little bit more difficult is when a spicy chord that's not really from that key shows up during the song, like with a modal interchange, or even the song completely modulates to a different tonality. So I thought I'd do a series of videos talking about a couple of ways that I use to kind of outline those modulations and key changes. And think in mind, I'm not really an expert on it, and it's not like the way I'm going to show you, it's the only way to do it, and it's the correct way to do it. And it's not like my way is completely original and no one has done it before. It's just one of a ton of ways to do it. But still, I thought I'd show you guys my thoughts about these sorts of things. And because we can modulate to a ton of different keys, and there are uncountable chords you can add here and there that really aren't from the key you're playing in, I thought we should do this in little chunks. For instance, today we're talking about modulating a tone up, just going from A to B. Perhaps later down the line, if you guys want more videos like this, we can maybe do a semitone up, semitone down, major third up, major third down, minor third up, minor third down. You guys leave in the comment section which videos you'd like to see. But yeah, for now, since this intro has already been going on for quite a long time now, let me just show you what I mean. But before I do, I just want to say please subscribe to my channel. You're probably aware that YouTube's been acting a little bit weird lately. Even if you subscribe to the channel, those channel's videos may really not show up in our subscription box. Even if you ring the notification bell thingy below, you still will not be notified of that channel's content. So if you want to stay tuned to my content, I highly suggest you subscribe, turn on all the notifications, but since that may or may not work, I suggest you follow me on social media. Not only do I post some exclusive stuff there, like improvised solos and jamming over and backing tracks, and generally wherever I'm up to at the moment, but I always post there about my videos. Links for the usual suspects will be below, like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, but in general, at Mark Guitar. Oh, and since you're down there, please consider leaving a like, and perhaps share this video on social media. I'd highly appreciate it. But yeah, I guess now we can get straight into it. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we're going to modulate a tone up. So if we're in A, now we're going to modulate to B. And so that I can explain myself, I'm going to use a couple of music theory terms, like when talking about modes and scales and intervals and stuff like that. And if at any point during the video there's something you really don't understand or don't know what I'm talking about, you should maybe check out the video right there, where I talk about some basic music theory stuff that can probably get you through this video and maybe make you learn something new. But as I was mentioning before, going from A to B, there are a couple of variations that are a little bit more easy to play over. For instance, if you're just going over A major to B major, again, it's not like it's a piece of cake, but it's mostly not that hard because these chords appear in the key of E major. If you're playing over these two chords, A major and B major, you can easily outline those chords by using notes of the E major scale that outline those chords. Again, the notes of A major being A, E, and C sharp, and the notes of B major being B, F sharp, and D sharp. In the key of E major, or perhaps in this position, all of these notes are in the key of E major. So if you do something like this, again, even if not exactly spot on, just by using the E major scale or maybe the E major pentatonic scale, you can more or less outline those chords. Again, if you're aware of the mode, you'll probably already know that if you're in E major, your A major chord relates to the A Lydian scale. And your B major chord in the key of E major relates to your Maxiladian scale. So you can use that to your advantage. The same thing if you do both minor chords. If you do A minor to B minor, the chords A minor and B minor are both in the key of E minor. So if you use something like your E minor pentatonic scale, or if you know it, your E minor scale, and again, if you know the modes, if you're in E minor, you know that your A minor relates to the A Dorian scale. And your B minor chord relates to your B Phrygian scale. You can use those, or you can use your regular E minor scale or your E minor pentatonic scale, whichever you want, to sort of outline those chords, hitting some of the chord tones. Now I forgot to mention in the example of A major to B major, but it's the same thing for A minor and B minor, so I can mention it now, I guess. Which is, if you're playing over A major, you can use your A major pentatonic. When you move to B major, you can just go to your B major pentatonic. And the same thing with your A minor to B minor. You can just use your A minor pentatonic for the first chord. When you move to B minor, you switch to your B minor pentatonic. And even though it will work, if you don't exactly know how to do it properly, it may just sound like you're playing scales over one chord and move to the next chord, oh here's a new scale, instead of it sounding sort of like a free-flowing thing, like you're actually outlining the chords and not just playing robotically. But again, that's just my opinion. If that sound is something that you're looking for, then move your scale around however you want to. As I mentioned before, there really aren't no rules to this. But yeah, we talked about moving from A major to B major, from A minor to B minor, and now we have to combine them both. For instance, let's say that we go from A major to B minor. Again, this sort of chord progression isn't really that hard to outline either, because you can find the chords A major and B minor either in the key of D major, again, if you know the modes, you know that if you're in D major, your A chord relates to the A Mixolydian scale. And that your B minor relates to B Aeolian or B natural minor. But you can also find these chords in the key of A major. Again, if you know your modes, you know that in the key of A major, well, A major is A major, A Ionian. And that B minor, in the key of A major, will relate to B Dorian. But again, with both of these chords, even if you don't know the exact modes, you can again either grab your D major scale or your A major scale and really target the chord tones. Getting to the last of our major minor possibilities, going from A minor to B major is when it gets a little bit more trickier, because in no regular major scale you'll find this chord progression. So in this case you have a couple of options. One, you first start out with your A minor ideas and then move to B as if you were going to move to B minor, because A minor and B minor are in a bunch of keys, and when it gets time to the B chord, you can swiftly go between B minor and B major. Something like this, for instance. If I tried to sort of break down what I did, I started with just some A minor pentatonic stuff, bluesy stuff. And just when the A minor part was ending and we're almost moving to the B major, I moved to either an F sharp, which is the 5th of B, which is in the B major chord, or I moved to that D, which is the minor 3rd of B, because we mentioned that the chord progression A minor and B minor were easily connectable, and then when we finally land in the B major chord, I raised that D to a D sharp, which is the 3rd of B major, and then just moving to B major playing, outlining that chord. If later on down the line we move to other chords, we'll find that it's easier to modulate between chords and keys if the key you're moving to or the chord you're moving to shares notes with your last chord. Between the A minor and B major, they don't share any notes. If they did, you could just land on one of those notes when we move from one chord to the other, but since in this case these chords don't share any chord tones, and you can't really find this sequence of chords in your regular major scale, you really gotta try to find some clever ways to outline these chords. Just like right now, when moving from A minor to B major, I suggested you starting with A minor, and then right before going to B major, moving from A minor, B minor to B major, to make the connection between those chords maybe a little bit more easy to follow, but you can do the exact opposite. Again, instead of going from A minor to B minor and then B minor to B major, before we looked at the B major works well with the A major, right? So maybe you can start out with your A minor stuff. Then when you're getting closer to the B major chord, you can perhaps slightly hint at a change from A minor to A major. Going to B major doesn't really sound that weird anymore. Sort of like this, I guess. Again, if I try to break down what I did just now, I started out with your regular A minor or A pentatonic stuff. Then when I get to this note, which is the 4th of A, I resolve it going to the major 3rd, and then outlining sort of an A major chord, which doesn't really sound well along with your A minor chord, but it works well as a way to get to the B major chord. And because the chords we looked at before could easily stay in the same key, we didn't really have the problem of going to one chord and getting back to the other chord. But now, because these chords are in the same key, we were just able to get from one chord, or maybe to the other, but now we need to get from this chord, in this case the B major, we need to get back to the A minor. And if you're trying to get back to the A minor, you can just do what you did to get to the B major, but do it backwards. So for instance, if we were in A minor, quickly went to A major to resolve to B major, you can be playing in B major, do a quick stop in A major, then resolve to A minor, right when that A minor chord came on. But instead of moving from B major to A major to then go to A minor, you can, as we did before, do B major, B minor, A minor, or you can get fancy with it. One is just to move away from your major scale. In our major scale, we don't really have the chord progression of A minor to B major, but we do have the chord progression A minor to B major in the key of E harmonic minor. And that's just one scale of many fancy weird scales that have these two chords. If you're comfortable with either the harmonic minor or some other scale that has those chords, you can definitely use it. Or using the E harmonic major scale. But honestly, the way I use the most to get from one chord to the other when chords don't really connect is I apply a resolution to it. And honestly, I'll just briefly mention this because I've done another video about this, and if I were to explain it cleanly and properly like I did in the other video, this video would get much longer than it needed to. But basically what I'm hinting to is, if you just wanted to get to B major, you can probably use a chord to resolve that B major. For instance, if you have like an F sharp dominant 7th, you can hear the resolution, right? Right before that B major chord lands, you can perhaps play something like an F sharp major lick or an F sharp dominant lick, so that it resolves well to the B major chord. I don't know, something like... In this case, I wanted to make the F sharp lick a little bit obvious, so I just went with full bluesy major scale lick. But again, if you know a little bit of theory or some more outside sounding scales, you can perhaps do a weirder scale like a B phrygian dominant scale. Or maybe an F sharp altered scale or something like it. And you can do the exact same thing when going back from B major to A minor. To resolve to the A minor, you can perhaps use an E dominant 7th. So if you're playing in B major, or maybe doing an A sharp diminished chord to move to the B major chord, like... And before we finish the video, if you weren't able to figure out already all of these little tricks that I've been showing you, you can also apply these in examples we did before. We mentioned that when we're going from A major to B minor, it was easy because we could be in the key of A major or D major, and we didn't really have to use any fancy scales, nor fancy arpeggios, nor anything like that. But you can use those. For instance, when going from A major to B minor, you can start out with your A major stuff. And since the chords A minor and B minor are also easy to play over with, before that B minor chord lands, you can perhaps do an A minor thing and then resolve to B minor, like we did with the A minor B major, or perhaps the trick I showed you of if you want to go to a chord, you can perhaps play its 5 major chord. Again, A major to B minor, it's easier to play over, but there is nothing stopping you from playing your A major stuff to play some F sharp major or dominant or wherever stuff you want to then resolve to the B minor chord. Since we then go back to A major, I can then go from B minor to perhaps E major. Resolve to the A major. Or if I want to get real fancy, I can do A major, then F sharp to resolve to B minor, then turn the B minor into a B major, to resolve to the E major, that will resolve to the A major. But in a way, that's more jazz cat stuff, and the video is probably already really long, so let's just do this. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, the sky is the limit with this sort of thing. There's really no right way to do it, and it's not like the ways I'm showing you are the only ways to do it. They're just the ones I use the most. And as with most things, you really should use your ear to do this. Even if you know a lot of theory and you know that you can use E harmonic major to play over the A minor and B major chords. If that doesn't sound good to you, or that's not the sound you're looking for, you really shouldn't just play what people tell you to play. You should find whatever suits you and whatever you think sounds good for your solo or your song or whatever. But yeah, I guess this video is getting really long already. So before we get to the outro, let's end it with this. One, if you actually end up doing any of these sorts of things, please film yourself playing it, post it on Instagram and tag me on it. Not only will I see it, but I'll repost you and tag you on it, because I'd really like to see what you guys can come up with. Two, if there are some other methods you like to use to modulate between chords a tone apart, please leave them in the comment section below or film your own video. And if you guys enjoyed this video and want me to do some more videos like this, please leave it in the comment section below with whichever chords you want me to move on to next. Or perhaps want me to move chords that are A minor third apart, or A major third apart, or A fourth apart, A tritone apart. You guys get to choose. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope this video was helpful to you in any way possible. And if it was, please leave me a comment below. Was there something I missed? Something I should have said? Also, if you have any suggestions for videos, I have this dedicated series called Yate, You Ask I Teach. I know, pretty boring, generic, and self-explanatory title, but as you can guess, and as the name implies, in that series I pretty much teach anything you guys leave in the comment section below. Well, guitar and or music related, of course. We've already talked about a bunch of different subjects, which you can check out in the card section right there. And since we're talking about comments and suggestions from you guys, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, if you like more videos like this one, talking about modulations and how to play over chord changes that either aren't modal or in the same key, please leave which sort of video you want me to do next. To where do you want me to modulate to? Also, if you're new to the channel and you haven't checked out some of my other videos, as I mentioned before, there are a couple of them in the card section right there, but other than videos of tips and tricks and guitar music theory stuff, I also do some other videos. For instance, sometimes I take a look at a specific lyric from a guitar player that I either think is interesting or a little bit different from what they usually play, and then I transcribe it and break it down so that all of you can learn it, like for instance Paul Gilbert's secret jazzy bebop lick. And just a couple of weeks ago I started a new series called Bass Tricks for Guitar, because for those who don't know, I actually started out playing bass and gigged for a couple of years before I moved on to guitar. So there are a bunch of things that I ended up bringing to my guitar playing that many of you who didn't really start on bass may end up not picking up if you don't really pick up the bass, I guess. I did this little pilot thingy and it went well, so I'll probably do some other videos talking about bass tricks for guitar. Again, check that video if you want to right there. But yeah, I guess that's it. Again, thank you so very much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on all the notifications. Please share this video on social media and follow me on social media. If you guys can leave a comment with suggestions for either this series or for my 8th series, please do. Again, these series can only keep going if you guys leave comments. But yeah, cheers!